Hello everybody and welcome to chapter 6 of the book of Bereishit as we continue to travel through Tanach. Chapter 6 is in the Koren Sachs Chumash starting on page 41 and it has 22 verses which we're going to go through together. We're going to see this is the last portion of Parshas Bereishit before we continue into the beginning of Parshas Noach. The first part of this chapter is going to describe how over 10 generations between Adam and Noach, society was declining more and deteriorating more and more until Hashem decides he has no choice but to wipe out the world and start again. And this is the backdrop to the flood, which we will see later in the chapter. So we have the prelude to the flood, first of all. Then we'll hear about Noach, and then God will decree that the flood will happen, and Noach is to build an ark by way of protection. So with that introduction, let's start together with chapter 6, verse 1. Vayehi ki heichel ha'adam la'rov al pnei ha'adama. And humans began to increase on the face of the earth. Vanos yuldu lahem. And daughters were born to them. Verse 2. Vayiru v'nei ha'elohim. Esbanos ha'adam ki tovos heina. When the sons of God saw that the daughters of man were lovely and were good, vayikchu lahem nashim mikol asher bacharu. They began to take whomever they chose to be wives to them. Verse 3, Vayomer Adonai, and Hashem said, Lo yadon ruchi va'adam la'olam b'shagam hu vasar. My spirit shall not contend evermore concerning man, since he is but flesh. V'hayu yamav me'ah ve'esrim shana. So his life shall be but 120 years. So we see at this point that Hashem is deciding that the lifespan of mankind is going to be limited to 120 years. Verse 4. Hanafilim hayu va'aretz bayamim ahem. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days. The Nephilim are a fascinating topic to look into. They seem to indicate that there were these fallen angels who came down to earth and took on physical form and contributed significantly to the deterioration of society. And later also the sons of God had gone to the daughters of man, vayaldu lahem, and had children with them. Hema hagiborim asher me'olam anshe Hashem. These were the heroes of old, men of legends. Verse 5. Vayar Adonai ki rabas ra'as ha'adam ba'aretz. Hashem saw how great man's wickedness had become upon the earth. V'chol yetzer machshavos libo rak ra kol hayom. And how his thoughts constantly inclined towards evil. Verse 6. Vaynachem Adonai ki asa es ha'adam ba'aretz. And Hashem regretted that he had made man on earth. Vayisatzev el libo. And he felt such sadness. Verse 7. Vayomer Adonai. And Hashem said, Emche es ha'adam asher barasi. I will erase my creation. Me'al pnei ha'adamah. From the face of the land. Me Adam ad behema ad remes ad ov hashamayim. Man, even animals and creeping things, even the birds of the heaven. Ki nichamti ki asisim. For I regret having made them. And finally, verse 8, which ends Parshas Bereishit for us. But Noach matzachein beinei Adonai. But Noach found favor in the eyes of Hashem. We continue with verse 9, the beginning of Parshas Noach, page 45. In the Koren Sachs Chumash. Eile told us Noach. This is the story of Noach. These are the offsprings of Noach. Noach ish tzaddik. Tamim haya b'dorosav. Noach was a righteous man, a person of integrity in his generation. Es ha'elohim hisalech Noach. Noach walked with Hashem. Fascinating insights on this verse. It talks about the toldos of Noach. We would expect to hear about his descendants, and yet it tells us about his character and his personality. Not only that, but there's a very famous Rashi on the question of Noach's righteousness. It says he was righteous in his generation. Does that mean that he was objectively righteous and in any generation he would have also been considered righteous? Or does it only mean that by the standards of his generation he was righteous? It is a great topic to look into. We continue though with verse 10. Vayoled Noach shlosha banim. Noach had 3 sons, Es Shem, Es Cham, ve'es Yafes. His 3 sons were called Shem, Cham, and Yafes. Interesting to note that Yafes is actually the older. Shem, though, is listed first because he goes on to be the main lineage of Noach, the lineage that ultimately leads to Abraham and the birth of the Jewish people. Verse 11, Vatishaches haaretz lifnei ha'Elohim. The earth had become corrupt before God. Vatimalei haaretz chamas. And the earth had become filled with chamas. Rabbi Sachs translates as violence, and it is no coincidence that we face the ongoing threat of Hamas's violence. Verse 12, Vayar Elohim es haaretz v'hinei nishchasa. And God saw the earth and saw how corrupted it had become. Ki hishchis kol basar es darko al haaretz. For all flesh had corrupted its way upon the earth. Verse 13, Vayomer Elohim LaNoach, Hashem says to Noach, Kates kol basar ba lefanai. The end of all flesh has come before me. Ki mala haaretz chamas mipneihem. The earth is full of violence because of them. Interesting that in other versions of the Chumash, in the Art Scroll, for example, it translates chamas as robbery. Either way, we're looking at a very violent and morally bankrupt society. V'hineni mashchisam es haaretz. And I am about to destroy them from the earth. Verse 14, Aseh lacha tevas atse gofer, kinin ta'aseh es hateva. So Hashem instructs Noach to build the ark. He says, make yourself an ark made of cypress wood and make it with compartments. And coat it with pitch inside and out. Verse 15, this is how you shall make it. This is going to be the dimensions of the ark. The length of the ark shall be 300 amos, 300 cubits long. An amma is somewhere between 0.5 of a meter and 0.6. So we're looking at a length of between 150 to 180 meters. Chamishim amma rachba, the width shall be 50 amos, which is between 25 to 30 meters. Ushloshim amma komasa, and the height should be 30 cubits, 30 amos, which is about 15 to 18 meters. Verse 16, Soha taseh lateva, make a window for the ark. This was no ordinary window. Fascinating insights on how they managed to get light into the ark. Ve'el ama tchalena milamala, and you shall put a slanted roof on it so that it comes to within an amma at the top, and that was how the rain would drip down. Ufesach hateva b'tzidat hasim, you should put a door on the side of the ark. Tachtiyim, shniyim, ushlishim taseha. You shall make 3 decks, a lower deck, a middle deck, and an upper deck. And our rabbis teach us that Noach and his family occupied the space on the upper deck, the animals occupied the space on the middle deck, and the refuse occupied the lower deck. Verse 17, Va'ani hineni mevi es hamabul mayim al haaretz. I'm about to bring floodwaters over the earth, l'shaches kol basar, to destroy all flesh, asher bo ruach chayim, that has within it the breath of life, mitachas hashamayim, under the heavens, kol asher ba'aretz yigva, everything on earth will die. Verse 18, V'hakimosi es brisi itach, but I will establish my covenant with you, uvasa el hateva, and you will enter the ark, ata, you, uvanecha, your sons, ve'ishtecha, your wife, unashei vanecha, and your sons' wives, itach, with you. Verse 19, Umikol hachai, mikol basar shnayim, and you shall take 2 of each living creature, mikol tavi el hateva, you should take them into the ark with you, lehachayos itach, to keep them alive with you, zachar and nekeva yihiyu, male and female of each species. Verse 20, meha of leminehu, each kind of bird, each species of bird, umin habehema lemina, each species of animal, mikol remes v'adama leminehu, each kind of creeping creature you shall take with you, shnayim mikol yavo elecha lahachayos, 2 of each you shall take with you to keep them alive. Verse 21, va'ata kach lecha mikol ma'achal asher ye'achel, as for you, take all the food to be eaten, v'asafta elecha, and store it, v'haya lecha v'lahem la'achla, and it will be food for you and for them. And finally, verse 22, vayas Noach k'chol asher tziva oso Elohim kein asa. Noach did everything that was commanded of him. And that concludes chapter 6 of the book of Bereishit. When we get to chapter 7, we're going to have the final call for all of the animals. We're going to have the start of the flood. And as we get to chapter 8, we will learn there about how the flood recedes and what happens after the flood. But for now, I wish you a wonderful and meaningful day.